first thing I said was like, yo, we gonna be together. We need a mentor couple immediately.
Initially, I was not in for that. I come from a place where we don't talk about our issues in front of other people.
Right. So her response was, I don't want anybody knowing my business.
Yeah.
And I just looked at her like, what?
Hello, my name is Mrs. Melanin.
And I'm Belief Mel.
And we're here with episode 236 of How Married Are You?
Okay, my name is Belief. This is Yvette. We married 14 years. Live in California. We got four
kids.
Relationships scary. It's very necessary. We share a lot of our struggles. We ask,
How married are you?
Tuesdays and Thursdays, shawty. If you're listening, you're in the wedding party. It's okay if you want to put your hands up. You got the questions. We got the answers.
It's chocolate baby story time.
Chocolate baby story time.
It's chocolate baby story time.
1, 2, 3, and...
It's chocolate baby story time.
Yo, so I took the kids shooting. Like we were shooting like rifles and stuff like that. And it was cool. Like I don't know if I had that. I did not have that experience as a child. But we were out here and we had like all these things set up. And I think we try to normalize, everything for them so they could like just understand the dangers of like firearms and like why you have them. And I think that I don't know if you're comfortable with it, but I feel like I've normalized like safety and firearms a little bit around here. Even when they're shooting their BB guns, they're able to they know that they don't point the gun at anybody, right? We make a big deal out of gun safety. So it's been cool. It's very interesting, but it's cool.
Mm-hmm. The other day, Theo was telling Glenn a story about how another kid said the S word, and Glenn goes and says the actual S word, ? Like he says, what? Is that the word he said? And then Theo goes, no, stupid. Do you remember that? That was a long time ago. But I wrote it down.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely happened. I remember that, man. Yo, welcome back, man. So good to be here with y'all. Make sure you guys check out our website, man. We got some dope stuff on our website, howmarriedareyoupodcast.com. And sign up for our email list. We have some things coming. We shoot these pre-recorded, so I don't know what's coming, but I know that by this time we should have some things coming.
Oh my goodness.
In the queue, so make sure you sign up.
We might have a merch launch happening by the time this episode comes out. And if we do, you might want to go over to BELEAFandFatherhood.com to make sure you don't miss out on that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Big shout out to our new people on our team, Jason Sue, getting some stuff done, and Released, who's helping us out with some stuff too. Getting the editing done for the podcast. Thank you so much. Yeah, let's go ahead and hop into the topic, babe. What we got?
All right, we got an email. Looks like it's for Glenn. Hey guys, I've been watching you since the beginning of the Belief in Fatherhood days, and watching your family truly gives me hope and comfort. My question is really for Glenn to answer because I believe that we have a similar thought process. There have been times when you disclosed that when you and Yvette had disagreements, that you are more inclined to fight for the marriage and she is more in a flight mode when dealing with conflict. I know you guys have come a long way, and that's why I look up to your relationship. The person that I'm with moves in a way where if there's a disagreement, they are okay with no communication, and they pretty much act like they don't care. It's getting to a point where I'm tired of being the optimist one in the relationship because I truly feel if I don't fight for it, it will just crumble. Should I try to continue with this dynamic, or should I call it a quits because I'm tired of being the bigger person all the time, especially when most of our disagreements are caused by my boyfriend and his poor attitude?
All right, so as far as me being the one that's fighting for the relationship, I don't know if that's accurate. I know I ain't going nowhere for the most part, but I don't have a lot of like reconciliation skills. Right? What would you say?
I don't think so. When so here's how it works. When our nervous system responds, there's fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And so I am not a flight person. I am more of a fawn person. And if you're unfamiliar with fawn is more of like a people pleasing thing. Now, there are times where I will, and I don't know, maybe you consider this flight, where we will have things arise and then I will not necessarily want to address it right away. But I'm always willing to fight, I feel like. Right?
No. I don't think so, but
I guess it's not an absolute statement. Always is not a really good way to say it. But
yeah.
This analysis
Of us
does not feel
Yeah.
accurate.
It may have been actually in a season, but there's definitely
a
a like
flight
we need
person.
to talk about this. And Yvette's kind of like silent.
Because, and the reason that is because I need time to process. And so I guess in the sense of when we do have disagreements and Glenn is like trying to talk to me, he will, like, even the other night when we were recording a podcast and he was saying all these things and I was like, okay, let's stop because I need to think and process everything that has just been expressed to me. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
So like, in that sense, maybe I'm a mixture of all the things, but I don't think I'm a flight person. I don't fly. I more so just need more time than you to process all the things. Because by the time Glenn's done arguing his side, he has given me 50-11 analogies and metaphors in order to explain himself. And I'm like, okay, hold on. Let me get my thoughts together.
Well, I think for me, what's happening in our lifetime is that I'm not necessarily keeping receipts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just storing information. I'm filing.
What?
It's like severance. Like I'm
No,
filing. I'm putting
fool.
things in filing cabinets. And so what's happening is this will happen, and I'm like, that's weird. I'll put this in here, but it also fits in this box. So we'll make a duplicate and put it here as well. And then I'll keep like filing this stuff. And then I'm like, wait a minute. This
Why
is
are
a
you
pattern.
putting it a duplicate and filing it? Oh, because it fits in multiple.
It fits in multiple categories. So, the people pleasing thing seemed like a really big issue, but it was really an identity issue. You know what I'm saying? So there's a people pleasing box and an identity box. And I'm kind of like, okay, the people pleasing is just a symptom of the identity. So let's talk about the identity.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm more of like, okay, I have this evidence and I need to share it with you because I think there's a pattern here and I want to make sure that we resolve this issue because I don't know how long I can stand for this. Right? And Yvette's kind of like, what issue? I don't have an identity issue. I'm a people pleaser, but I don't have an identity issue. And then like 3 years later, someone will be like, you have an identity issue.
3
and she
years?
goes, oh,
Glenn's been saying that for 3 years.
yeah.
So I think also what happens is because you are someone who does file things away in different categories, it takes me a while to catch up and see it from that perspective.
Right.
And I feel like as our marriage has progressed, I have done a much better job of getting it sooner than later. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There have been quite a few revelations. I mean, I think we've talked about Tico. You guys have seen Tico on the podcast before.
Yeah, I think it was episode 70 and 71.
But having Tico and Glenn in my life, like they are literally the same person, but she's a female version of him. And so sometimes she is better able to articulate things than he is in a way that I get it. And I'll be like, oh, Glenn's been saying that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But anywho, which also goes to say that if you don't have someone who is pouring wisdom into you, you need to find that person.
Episode 201 is Tico's
I was gonna
episode.
say I don't think it was that far back.
Episode 201. Go back and watch that one.
But I don't know if we're answering this person's question. So she's saying, my question is really for Glenn to answer because I believe that we have similar thought process. There have been times when you disclose that when you and Yvette have disagreements, that you're more inclined to fight. Okay, so she's tired of being the one to fight and having him be flight. And I think she's trying to say, how can we move forward from here? Should I try to continue with this dynamic or should I call it quits?
Yeah, I think the good question is like, do you see this person progressing at all? One thing that was really important initially, man, like I know like certain things are just ring true, right? Community is going to help you, right? So if Yvette and I, first thing I said was like, yo, we gonna be together. We need a mentor couple immediately. It wasn't even like, nah, we need a mentor couple. We need a mentor couple. And I don't even know why I was so crazy about this because I don't know if a lot of men in my life had mentor couples, but I just was like, duh, like we don't want to be some people who are just out here doing this by ourselves and relying on our own understanding. We've never been successful at relationships. And what was your response?
Initially, I was not in for that. I come from a place where we don't talk about our issues in front of other people.
Right. So her response was, I don't want anybody knowing my business.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I just looked at her like, what? You know what I mean? So like, that was like the first thing. Right. And if we had a referee in the bout, right, we can always go to someone and say, okay, what are the rules that we stand on here? Like, what's going on here? Why am I blah, blah, blah. Like we could work out things with a third party that wasn't just about me or just about her, right? It would be someone who has God as the center of their lives and could always bring us back to that whenever we got into our own personal issues. And early on, it worked for Yvette.
What do you mean by that?
Like it was good. It was better for us to have a mentor couple than it was for me. I was getting my butt kicked in those conversations. I remember one time I was like, and I'm gonna lead this back to this point, right? I remember one time I was like, yeah, man, like I want to, like Yvette wants me to go get a job, but I'm doing music and I don't want to get a job. Like I don't want to work anywhere like Target or anything like that. It's so boring. Like I want like a cooler job. And he was like, my mentor couple was like, that's so stupid. He was like, just work. He was like, you have no business talking about where you want to work. You don't have a job. What is wrong with you? Like, and I'm just sitting there and Yvette's just looking at me, tears welling up, just like, yeah, just shaking her head. Like, and I was getting every single conversation we were having early on. I was getting mollywopped.
How you keep saying early on.
mollywopped. Right. And I just look so stupid so often. So if there is no, and the reason why a mentor couple is someone good to have, not only because they're good referees, but they're a good reference point of what you can look forward to, right? In your relationship. So if you guys don't have anything to look forward to, if he's always going to be in flight mode, right? And he's just kind of like, yeah, I'm not going to deal with it. I just don't deal with it. That's what I do. You know what I'm saying? He doesn't have big homie to be like, is that the standard of man you're going to be? Is that the standard you're setting for your children? Is that who you are? You know what I mean? If no one can do that, which is why the premarital advantage is on our website. That's why you need to go to the website, howmarriedareyou.com. The premarital advantage is a somewhat of an e-course that helps you walk through these type of conversations, right? Before you say I do, before you get married, before you even ask, will you marry me? If you're in a strong relationship with someone, this e-course is going to be helpful because we will be your mentor couple for these modules. So if you need that type of accountability, if you respect Yvette and I all in the least bit, in the smallest amount, and you just want to like, hey, I have to ask some questions. I need to have a conversation with myself and with my spouse or my partner. This is where you want to be. I think that this is honestly like, yeah, get out of there. Like if you're dealing with someone who doesn't want to fight for the relationship, kick rocks. You know what I'm saying? Like if you guys aren't married, like this is not a decision you're making, but it seemed like it's a really bad foundation to communicate on. What do you think?
I mean, I think it needs to go back to what you said about, are you seeing any progress? Are you seeing any growth? Because I don't think that we all know how to be good communicators from the get-go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we may be able to communicate in certain categories and in different ways, but when you're in a relationship with someone, there's so much that's being revealed and exposed about not just them, but yourself in relationship with the person. And I feel like it's taken us years after years after years in order to get to the level of communication we're at now, and we still have room for improvement. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think understanding clearly, like, those different responses, fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, is valuable. And also having someone on the outside to be able to communicate, like to be a mediator of sorts, is very helpful. Because I will say, like, I was grateful for our mentor couple as well, because they would be able, like, Glenn would be saying something to me, or I would be saying something for Glenn, and they could actually hear what was underneath those words.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And help bring that out, or ask the proper questions in order for us to be able to better understand where the other person is coming from and see more clearly what the actual issue was. You know what I mean? And so I don't necessarily think it's like a reason to quit a relationship. I think there's a conversation to be had of, would you be willing to, like, bring in a third party, or to have this conversation with somebody so that maybe we can help each other understand. I think there's some books out there that could be read to help you guys understand communicating in love and, like, in relationship a lot better. I think there's therapy sessions to be booked. You know what I mean? Like, I think there are lots of different resources that could help with this. And then after pursuing those different things, if you are not seeing progress, if you are not seeing growth, if you do not, and I know sometimes we can't always fully trust our feelings, but if you do not feel better when communicating with your partner, then I'd say, okay, you've tried and you want to move on. But I think at this point, you have to decide for yourself, is this someone worth fighting for? Like, is it even worth fighting through figuring out how to communicate with each other? Or do I just not want this? Like, how much do you want it?
Yeah.
And I think too, going back to something that Glenn said earlier, is that, like, when you do have a mentor couple and you see them and they're like, there's a level of authenticity and transparency that they have with you, and you see what you're fighting for, it boosts your perseverance. You know, it boosts your commitment to the relationship. Because when I see other couples, or like people that we are in a relationship with or do life with, and I get a glimpse of that, I'm like, Glenn and I have potential to be that. So why not fight for it? Because they weren't always this way. They had to get through these growing pains, just like we have to get through these growing pains. So I don't know. I don't feel like it's an automatic quit the relationship. I think there is some work to be done in figuring out how to communicate with each other, and then going from there.
We have to also take into consideration, he may be fighting by avoiding. Like, this may be his way of, like, dealing with it. Like, he just doesn't want to argue.
Mm-hmm.
Like, think about it. Like, not everybody has the skills to, like, hammer down on an issue. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Some people just are kind of like, are we going to go get some food or what? You know, like, are we, like, what's happening here?
Mm-hmm.
I do think, do you think you can align with that at all? Earlier on?
Yeah, for sure. I think there are moments when I've been like, you know what? I know I'm not going nowhere. I know he's not going nowhere. I mean, hopefully this fixes itself.
Yeah, we had ourselves a doozy of an argument recently.
Recently?
You were tripping.
Remind me.
I was trying to get you to do something you didn't feel like doing.
Oh my gosh.
And you started cursing at me and all that.
Did I cuss?
Yeah.
What?
I have so much on my plate. Remember
That's
that?
true.
Effing.
Hey now.
Hey now.
Don't
say now.
imitate. I told you not to try to do my voice because you don't do it well. And I do not sound like that. But yes, it's true.
Babe, sometimes you do sound like that.
It
You don't
is
always sound like you
true.
sound now. When you wake up, you sound different. When you're sleepy, you sound different.
But I don't sound like what you just said
When
ever.
you're in the kitchen, you talk like you from North Carolina. You get on an accent.
You know what I realized? I rub you to keep
stop
from hitting
punching me in the face.
No,
like
not punching you in the face, in the arm.
Yeah.
What was I saying? No. Yeah, I will say, like, you know, I just love Glenn because I just love him. I really do. Like, he challenges me in some of the most healthy ways. It's not always, I don't always enjoy being challenged. However, I always grow from being challenged by him. But he was saying, hey,
same.
He was saying, like, you know, I think you need to have this conversation with this person. And I was like, I don't really have capacity for that right now. Do you know what's all on my plate? And I was like outlining it. And he was looking at me like, girl, I know, because I got very similarly aligned things on my plate too. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I think this is going to be like much bigger. You know, I had kind of blown the conversation up in my mind to be more, what's the word I'm looking for? Like heavier than it was going to be, or like that it was going to carry residue after the conversation was had. Like, it wasn't just going to be a conversation and then I was done with the conversation. It was going to be a conversation and then I had other stuff to carry along with it. And so I was like, I don't really have time for that. I have deadlines to meet. I have a house to pack up. I have all these different things to do. And he's like, girl, have the conversation. And so eventually it kind of became like.
No, go ahead.
I'll say
Well, I was going to say, like, I bullied you.
You did.
Because I was like, if you don't have the conversation.
Oh, yeah, he did say, I'll have it.
If you don't have the conversation, I know this isn't your strength. First of all, I know this isn't your strength. And Yvette does this thing where I'll say something that's true and she'll be like, no, right? So I was like, look, I know this isn't your strength. And that offended you. When I said that, it seemed like.
Well, he was making it seem like I was scared of the conversation, when the truth of the matter was I was not scared of the conversation. I didn't feel like having the conversation. I didn't feel like I had capacity for it.
Right. So, but if I go back to my filing cabinet and we go to the conversation filing cabinet and tough conversations to have, if I thumb through it, there's conversations that have
true.
That
yeah,
you have a track record of not.
I don't enjoy. I could
pull out with accordion file out of the filing cabinet.
Can you just get to your point
here, right? And I can show you. So I say, okay, if you don't have this conversation, you're not going to be the conversation person anymore. Okay, from now on, when it comes to addressing people as a family, I'm doing it, and you have no right. You're giving over the keys because the conversation affects me as well, right? The things that. All of those conversations have affected me as well, right? And whether or not you want to have the conversation, let's just take that away from you and say, hey, babe, if you just say, hey, babe, you know what? I'm not good at this. Can you do this for me? I got you. I will gladly have the conversation. Now, how I have the conversation and how I say it, you can't tell me nothing.
That is my problem.
You can't, you know what I'm saying? And she was like, well, the conversation probably needs a little bit more grace and like a little bit more care. And I was like, who cares about that? We don't have time for that. Just start the talk.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah, you had the conversation. And
so then I ended up having the conversation, and you know what is interesting about conversations is sometimes you have to have the conversation for yourself more so than the other person. Because I thought it was going to be more about the other person, but the conversation revealed a lot to me as far as how I was going to moving forward. You know what I mean? How we as a family were going to moving forward. And so it was a revelation. It was revelations that I needed to have in order to navigate certain things for us as a family. And I was like, oh, so this was actually more for me than it was for them. And that's totally fine. And then it was like the conversation was had and that was it. We had clarity as well. Glenn had already had clarity, but I had clarity as, you know, whatever. And now it's like, okay, I'm comfortable moving forward how I want to move forward or how we need to move forward. And so, yeah, I don't remember how we got to this part of how we got
I just
here.
said some people, the whole thing is avoiding.
Yeah.
You know, so he might be in flight mode, just because that's how he deals with things. You know what I'm saying? I'm so glad that you have come out of that a little bit more, or been at least more receptive to that. Because one thing I usually would have done during that time is I just would have been like, okay, well, if you don't want to have the conversation, I'll just wait till you're ready.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I am not doing that.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there is no, now, just because you're like that, I'm still glad we're together. Like, I'm not like, oh, I would have not been with you if I would have known that was how you're gonna be. That wasn't a caveat to my love or anything or commitment to you, but it was something to show me that, like, there's something over there in those conversations that's like, I don't know, it's something. You know what I mean? It's something there, and I think it's more for your growth. You know what I mean? Like, I'm now more in a situation where I'm kind of like, hey, don't you know that if you have that conversation, whatever you're stuck on right now might be a little bit more clear? You know, or like it'll actually give you capacity to run more forward in this area because you don't have to worry about this other thing that's looming. So, yeah, it was actually really helpful. And I don't know if that's for everybody, right? So I don't know. It really just depends on, you know, what you want to put up with and how long you have to, because we're not saying that he's going to be like this all the time. You know what I mean? He may not be like this for a long time, but if this is how he is and how he's been, he may not see a problem. We have friends that, you know, the wife would be like, man, he just doesn't get it. And he's never da-da-da-da. And then the husband would be like, I don't know, everything's fine to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is a normal way to think about it. You know what I mean? For some people. So, yeah.
But we wouldn't suggest that.
No, but I mean, we wouldn't suggest it, but it seems like you need a referee. You need someone to know you well and to talk to you guys and to figure out what's the bigger issue, right? And if he says, hey, I don't want to talk about it, it's just not something I'm going to do. And if you can ask me to talk about it, I don't want to be with you. Then the conversation is done. Then it's like, okay, cool. He's not going to get any better. He's not going to progress. And some men choose that and regret it 3 days later or 2 years later. The one that got away, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, that happens a lot. Like, a lot of men do that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, man, just have the conversation. Just get through it. It's muddy. Get through it. You know? It doesn't have to be that, but don't waste your time being somebody's, I'm gonna tell him something. So my dad, I'm sure he's okay with me saying this, but I'll hear about it. So my dad got divorced a couple times to the same woman and married her a few times. One of the times they got divorced was because he just was like, I don't want to do that. Like, the things you want to do, I don't want to do, and I'm not changing. Right? This is what I know from my perspective. He might have a different story along this. But now they're together and he's doing all the things he said he didn't want to do. So she was the one that got away and the one that he ran back to that got away again that he ran back to. You know what I'm saying?
Which anniversary do they celebrate? The original one?
I don't know. But yeah, they got like 3 anniversaries for sure. But oh, you know what? It'd be a good prank. I should just call him and be like, I think it's one of your guys' anniversaries.
Happy anniversary.
I should do that right now.
No, babe. Come on, move on.
Okay, sorry.
They're at church anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, like sometimes dudes just don't get it. And it's not for you to wait till they're not stupid no more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he's got to learn the hard way. Let him learn. You know?
And I think that's easier said in a dating relationship than it is in a marriage relationship.
Yeah, because you picked them.
Yeah. And so I feel like when you have these types of, like, when you see it in the dating relationship, you can address it. And if that doesn't get better, then you have an out. But if you're married, it's worth fighting through, growing through.
Maybe we'll see.
We'll see.
Yeah. I think that some people can't tolerate that. You know, some people, they don't have a lot of bandwidth. I think me needing to prove family for myself was a big thing that was more about my commitment to you. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. How married are you?
I'm so married that the other day I was making us a fruit bowl for breakfast, and we like to put grapes in our fruit bowl. And you know how the grapes get to that point where like they're hard, soft, like they're whatever.
Yeah.
So I made sure that I picked the hardest grapes and put them in your bowl and not in mine.
Whoa. That's wild. That's love.
Thanks. How married are you?
I'm so married that you went away. You went away to work on your book, your devotional, and you were away and you were only supposed to be there for like 2 days, and you were making such good progress. And I just was like, babe, just go stay another day. Like, just stay another day. And we had like some family event that I was just like, let's just not do that. And let's just let you hammer away at this. And there was a lot of throw up. There was a lot of stuff happening. Like the kids were sick and stuff like that while you were gone. But we made it count, man. And I'm very grateful I did that because I felt like you finished that with a lot more confidence.
I did.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
You got some sunsets in. And yeah.
It was a nice time. Thank you.
Welcome.
And that's just how married we are.